The dollar has strengthened. Watch out, emerging markets. Hello, welcome to In Conversation with Dong Tao. The dollar has been strengthening. Since 2021, the DXY index has appreciated about 20%, reaching the height of 20 years. The trend accelerated after Russia's invasion to Ukraine. The euro and the Japanese yen all saw a new records of multi-cycle. Several reasons behind the dollar strengthening. The US economy is overheated. Inflation is on the surge, and the Fed hikes interest rate aggressively. While the European Central Bank, Bank of England, and many other central banks raised the interest rate as well, the Fed is the most aggressive one. That has enlarged the yield gap between the US Treasury and the other currencies, attracting capital inflows. The US is a net energy exporter. It suffered from domestic inflation, but its current account is not as dramatically affected as the other countries. Germany and Japan all saw a massive swing in current account from huge surplus to huge deficits. Last but not least, the US government is much more tolerant towards a strong US dollar. The Biden administration prefers a strong US dollar in contrast to the Trump administration. That helps in easing the stress from imported inflation and tightened monetary condition. The dollar is very overbought, so I would not be surprised to see some corrections. But in the long run, judging from the relative strength of the US economy against the other countries, the US dollar seems to have further upside. The US dollar is a dominating currency for global payments, savings, and reserves. When the dollar is in a big swing, it affects not just the United States, but also the rest of the world. Former US Treasury Secretary in 1971, John Connally, had a famous saying that the dollar is our currency, but it's your problem. When the US monetary policy is eased, the dollar becomes cheap, easy for the developing countries to borrow, and EM countries tend to borrow a lot to fund an investment boom. But when the US monetary policy is tightened, the rates in the United States become attractive. Money flows back to the dollar zone. Heavily indebted countries have liquidity problems, having trouble for debt repayment. A debt crisis happens. For industrial countries, most debts were issued domestically, so the central banks could act as the lender of last resort. For EM countries, most debts are dollar denominated. The central banks cannot print dollars, so debt crisis becomes devastating for those economies. And usually it triggers domino effects among those heavily indebted countries. For this reason, when dollar is in a long period of appreciation, emerging markets usually will end up with debt crisis. Take a look at this chart. During the dollar appreciation cycle between 1995 to 2002, Venezuela, Rwanda, Russia, Ukraine, Pakistan, Ecuador, Argentina, Uruguay, and Nicaragua defaulted their debts. Close to home, Thailand, Indonesia, and Korea saw their currencies collapsing. They merely escaped from a debt default with IMF's financial assistance. It was an unprecedented frequency for EM sovereign debt default. From 2012 to 2020, the next prolonged period of dollar strengthening, the world experienced the European debt crisis, African debt crisis, Latin American debt crisis. Together, 14 countries defaulted their sovereign debt. We're now experiencing a new round of dollar strengthening. Russia and Sri Lanka defaulted sovereign debt. Turkish lira and Pakistan rupee saw deep depreciation. I don't think they are the only victims for this round of dollar appreciation. Managing risk and leverage becomes critical, in my opinion. In the long run, managing a portfolio is about managing the risks, especially when the macro environment is unstable. Following the global financial crisis in 2008, the Fed launched a drastic monetary expansion. The amount of dollar exploded without an anchor. The credibility of the US dollar has weakened, but the other currencies have no credibility either. Indeed, the dollar is our currency, but it's your problem.